morning, everyone. My name is Ozioma Onosidike. I'm the director of the Institute of African Studies, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. It's our pleasure to host this event. I'd like to welcome you and to say how excited I was when I was approached by Dr. Chime Nama Okechukwu. When I heard her saying something about Pan-African story in research and policy documents, and telling African story in publications related to social work, in terms of social policy, and how all of that tells something about sustainable development in Africa. I was very excited, and I thought this is what our institute should support. I'd like to invite Dr. Chinwe to introduce today's event.
Before I do that, I think somebody wants to tell us the story. So let me allow her to tell you. And I'll come back with you to share my story with you.
Ọhụ obodo obere ekele unu. Geenụ ntị n'oke ọkwa dị mkpa. Ozi a si n'aka ndị ọhaneze Social Work Support Hub wee rute anyị aka. Ọ ga-adị mkpa ma anyị mara ihe nrite a ha wetara anyị. Ozi a bụ ihe gbasara ahụike anyị, otu anyị ga-eji mee ka anyị nọọ dị ndụ ogologo. Ọzọ dịka ibe ya bụrụkwa a na-ewetara anyị ihe banyere otu esi azụlite ụmụazị n'oge gboo, tinyekwara otu esi akwado na-ewulite ndị ntorobịa na agbọghọbịa oge gboo. Ọ ga-adị mkpa ma ọ bụrụ na anyị gbakọọ n'ụbọchị Eke n'ámá obodo iwe mata ihe nrita dị iche iche ha wetara anyị. Ebe ọbụla ị nọ, ọ ga-adị mkpa ma ọ bụrụ na ị gwa ndị obodo gị, gwakwa ndị ezinụlọ gị ka ha gbakọta, n'ihi na ọtụtụ ihe nrita dị n'ime ya ma ọ bụrụ na anyị matacha otu anyị ga-esi hụ na anyị kwalitere ezigbo ahụike, tinyekwara ihe ndị anyị na-eme n'oge gboo dịka egwu ọnwa na ịgba mgba na ihe ndị ọzọ na-enye aka ịhụ na ahụike anyị na obiọma na-agba mgbe niile iji were nwee ike chụọ ọbara mgbali elu dị na anyị dị ndụ ogologo. Ebe ọbụla ị nọ, gbalịa ịhụ na ị bịara n'oke mmemme a n'ụbọchị Eke n'ámá obodo. Ọha obodo Odenigwe ekele m unu. Ozi ọma a dị mkpa sitere n'aka ndị ọhaneze Social Work Support Hub na-erute anyị aka. Ha na-eme ka anyị mata ihe ndị dị iche iche banyere ahụike anyị, tinyekwara otu esi azụlite ụmụazị na enyemaka ndị ntorobịa na agbọghọbịa, ihe ndị bụ ihe eji mara anyị n'oge gboo. Ọzọ dịka ibe ya bụkwa ihe ndị eji mara anyị dịka egwu ọnwa, ịgba mgba na ihe ọtụtụ egwuregwu dị iche iche n'oge gboo. Ọ ga-adị mkpa ma ọ bụrụ na anyị rute bịa mata ihe ndị a, n'ihi na ahụike bụ ihe kacha mkpa. Ahụike bụ ihe kacha mkpa. Ka anyị gbalịa ebe ọbụla anyị nọ gwa ndị ezinụlọ anyị na ọtụtụ ndị ọzọ ka ha gbakọta n'ámá obodo n'ụbọchị Eke bịa nụrụ ozi ọma ha dị mkpa ha na-ewetara anyị. Ọzọ dịka ibe ya bụrụkwa ihe nrite anyị nwere ike irite n'efu ma ọ bụrụ na anyị na-erute ndị gọọmenti nso iji hụ na a na-azụlite ụmụaka n'ụzọ dị mkpa na mwulite ndị okenye, ndị ntorobịa na agbọghọbịa. Ndewo.
As a young girl, as a young child growing up, I had the opportunity of living first with my grandmother as a foster child. Then we are all, my parents were in Maiduguri Police State. And at a point when I finished my primary school, my dad said, "We're going back to the village to go and live with your grandmother. That is that the secondary school will be in the village." And I was like, why will I leave my siblings over there and then come down to the village to come and stay with my grandmother? And my mother was not too happy with that, but eventually I came back, finished my primary six, and started my secondary school living with my grandmother. And when I finished my secondary school, my friend came back and said, "Now you'll be living with your uncle. We're trying to get admission to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka." And it was then I was moved to start staying with my uncle, now late Professor G.O. Chukuma. And it's a whole lot of story. That is our own story. That's my own story. And that is the African story that we want to share today. Sometimes we don't get to see people sharing this story or talking about how the dream and the passion that you came up with started. For me, this is how it started with my grandmother first and then with the paternal uncle. And that was how the dream of getting a university education started. Because my father felt, well, I won't be able to sponsor everybody, but some of you need to live with your uncle. And of course, if you flash back or look back, that is actually our culture as Igbo people, that sometimes when your parents feel that we're not strong enough to support you, they can send you to maybe an extended family member to say, "Okay, you live with this person and this person will provide the support." And when I came in here, of course, I did my diploma here, my degree, my master's, and then PhD, all in the Department of Social Work. And then the passion for me was all about child fostering, because this was like part of my childhood experience. It was about what is this child fostering all about, and why do we do this as a African? What is all about child fostering? And that was what I explored in my MSc and then my PhD too. I was there publishing paper. The first paper was actually through the support of somebody who is also here today to support this vision of ours, and that is Professor Nsukka. He's here with us. I know when we came in here, I started talking about publication, and I was like, "How do you publish? How do you even submit paper? How do you do that?" He was the one that provided the first mentorship for us. A few of us then, I remember sometimes in geography, sometimes in sociology, I was started going through step by step on how to publish paper, and eventually we got our first paper published, and for me it was like a dream come true. But looking at that, today, I think I have over 29 publications, and that is why we said we have been able to display few of those things here, and the dream of having something to talk about in terms of support. We have these beautiful African stories that we have in our published papers in terms of what we do, but sometimes we don't have people telling this story to the public. We have this paper, when you turn some of our papers, at the conclusion part of it, you see a lot of we do awareness, we talk to policymakers, we do this and we do that. But at the end of the day, we don't see ourselves walking that talk. So the Social Work Support Hub is all about telling the African story. We want to walk that talk that we have in some of these publications. As scholars, we discover something that sometimes we don't get to tell our story as African scholars. Whether we see ourselves telling stories about papers published in other countries and talking about how to implement it, and then maybe trying to import ideas from Europe and then trying to plant it in our own cultural environment. And sometimes it will not just fit. But we have beautiful stories from African scholars, and we need to say, "Come, this is the right time for us to start telling those stories." And how do we want to do that? We want a show whereby from time to time we sit down and look at what we have in our own paper, and how do we implement this? How do we meet policymakers? How do we meet people in government? How do we go to communities? Sometimes we carry out a research, maybe one community, and then that is all. We don't even go back to talk about how do we implement that and who will be involved. So this is what Social Work Support Hub is, a big hub that we want to look at different things, even though we are starting with alternative care and then something of public health. But we know that there are other areas that we want to look at too. A few years ago, I was talking to my mentor, my supervisor, 2 years or 3 years ago, about something like this. And I said, but I don't know how to start. First, I think I need to register. First, I think I need to do a few things. And she was like, oh, why not? You can start. I said, but how do I start? Actually, I started something small in my own community. I'm from Anambra State, I'm from Orumba. And that was a good that I had during the COVID-19. COVID-19, I started talking about social work in my own community. And that was the first time I was able to meet Igwe women for the very first time, talking about COVID and all that. And it was like, what do you know about COVID? And you a nurse and all that. But the awareness that I'm talking about was what led me to do that. And I felt that it's high time we start looking at some of these things that we have in our publication and start creating awareness, start talking about it to people. And that was the motive behind Social Work Support Hub here at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. We want to look at why is it that for our publication, they are not visible out there. We don't even implement some of the findings. We don't work with international donors to say, okay, this is part of the findings here. How do we implement this? Today, talk about the number of children who are out of school. Who is providing support service? Who is doing what? We don't know. We know that our sister, Chimamanda, says something about the danger of a single word story. Sometimes we don't get to tell our story. So people just tell us who we are. But that is not exactly who we are. So for me, I'm encouraging not just myself, not just people here sitting down with me, Dr. Chinwe and Dr. Raf, but for everybody here, that it is time we sit up to do what? To tell our own story. Let's not just have these papers published and then we're not thinking of creating awareness. We have awareness, we have advocacy and all those things here. We have social work students here with us today. What are you doing in your own little community? In fact, awareness is almost the top thing. But are we doing that awareness? I will say, please come and support us in this mission to tell the African story about childcare, on public health, on disability, on so many things, based on what? Findings from scholars. And we are happy that this is an academic environment. So we're not just talking what we don't know, but we are looking at that research, those things published by you and every one of us, and bringing in the African perspective into that. We are saying this today in the Institute of African Studies because Professor Ozioma gave us this platform. After today, we also want to move beyond this point to look at how we can share some of this our story with people out there, because that is the beginning of implementing projects and programs for SDG. When we talk about sustainable development goals around poverty, around hunger and all that, we have some of those things published in our papers. But what are we doing with those things? They are just there on Google Scholar and other sites. But have we been able to look at this and say, oh, let's look at this. How can we implement this in this community? Looking at the content here. The drama that we just watched was about trying to create awareness about something that will comfort in a community. She was announcing from one place or the other using our local, our indigenous cultural tools. But we have those things these days. People publish now, we don't even know what the publication is all about. How much of this awareness do we have in that your community, maybe in Only there, in Hilltop, in the market there, and other places there? How many? It may not be with this. Thank God that we've all gone digital now. But we want to start looking at bringing awareness to the doorpost of people that need to know. We want to tell that story. We want to bring that awareness. We want to talk about policy things. We want to meet people in government because we have stayed too long in the place. So we want to walk the talk. In all these papers that you see, very, very soon, I'm sure you look at this and then take a walk also to museum too. There are so many things that you and I need to know. And that is what this Social Work Support Hub is all about. Thank you very much.
I think that Dr. Chinyere can take us through the publications, highlight them, and then we can engage with what we've had concerning the vision of the hub, and how that relates to these publications and others. And then we see how we can interrogate what they are doing, or what questions we have for them, and what we want to understand further regarding the aim and vision of this hub. Thank you very much.
As Dr. Chinwe has said, I think she has said a whole lot. We want to take a small walk. We displayed few articles of what we've published so far since we joined the Department of Social Work, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. We've published a whole lot of articles, both in public health, both in child welfare, both in curriculum, name it. Also, in the Department of Social Work too, we have a textbook which we call Book of Reading. And in that textbook, we've talked a whole lot about what we can do. Then we now said, based on what we want to do today, we now said we don't just want to showcase our publications. We just don't want to say, we've met the requirements. We just don't want to say, that impact factor is easy to navigate now. We just don't want to say, we are visible. At least if you go to our Google Scholar, you will see all that we achieved. We want to take it back to homes. We want to, those as awareness curations that we want to see, we want to create. We want people to know about it. That's why we started this gathering. What are we trying to tell ourselves? We are now forgetting in terms of that Western pedagogy, because we are imbibing Western ideas. We are now forgetting in throwing away our indigenous knowledge. When somebody is holding a form, what is signified in Igbo land? If I ask most of our students here, what does it signify? They will not answer it, because we are imbibing Western idea. Also, when you hold something like Ogun and tie palm frond on it, it signifies something. And if I ask most of us, not just the junior colleagues or our students, they will still not know what it signifies for, because we are trying to imbibe Western idea. The contribution of Western pedagogy, not just to social work education, to other departments, is it a blessing or a curse? So, what we intend doing now is this. We want people, because if we start talking about what publications we have here, we will not end it today. We want us to come and see what we have here. Maybe you can go through the abstract or conclusion. Let us talk. Let us discuss. Let us know your view. Because the mission, as we said, is not just about profiling, saying in our recommendation that as I did in my PhD, I will do this, I will do that, and I will do this. But at the end, I've not done it. So come, let us look at our publications one by one. Just pick any one, go through it, not scan through the abstract and the conclusion. Then tell us what you have in mind. Then how we are going to achieve our purpose. Because the purpose is not just for publishing for the whites. We want us to come here. We want to hear your own opinion and your own view. We want to get your own idea. We want us to promote that our indigenous knowledge. That's the essence of the meeting. And before we proceed, our mentor, our supervisor, our role model came in the person of Professor Mrs. Uzoma. Please.
Thank you so much. I still want to say something about Professor Uzoma. In Igbo land, that's what we call the big masquerade and the small masquerade. Professor Uzoma Odera Okoye is a big masquerade in the Department of Social Work and Justice. She's a very big masquerade because she's not just a supervisor, she's my mentor, she's a mother, she's a teacher, she's just everything that you can talk about when it comes to grooming people trying to, from nowhere she will pick you up and then she will dust and polish you and then make sure that you're up there. So I just want to really appreciate her. Because when I came in here a few years ago, I was asking myself, how will I get one paper? In fact, I was just thinking, it has something to do with paper. How do you do that? And it was like step by step, until I was able to publish my first book. But before that, whatever dream that you're seeing today here, this social work support hub is all by her own support. She gave me so much support. Coming back from my PhD, she was also my supervisor. She also supervised me all through. Today I have with us here a woman who is not just a supervisor, but somebody that wants you to grow. She has mentored us, and then she wants to see us work. And today we are working. We are happy to have her here. I remember 2 years ago or so, I came and I was talking about this dream with her, the NGO thing, and she was saying, "Oh, Chief, I have somebody that you must register with a CDC and all that." She started talking. How can I go say how to register and all that? I said, "Oh, it's a very good one. Yes, this awareness thing. Let's start talking about this awareness thing." And she has supported me. So seeing her sitting down at that corner, please, I want her to come over here to say 1 or 2 things, because she will not just sit down. She must say something about this hub, about this dream, and who she is to us. Please, Professor Uzoma.
Good morning, everyone. I tell people that if I retire now, I'll be so happy because I've achieved my dream of becoming a university professor. 15 years ago, each time I want to write a paper, I'll have to sit down, conceptualize it, and then I'll start writing. But I remember that I used to have a professor, Professor Bikeze. Now, what he will normally do is just call myself and okay, Bruno, talk about an idea and tell us to go and put up something and bring, and then we'll do that and bring. And I'm like, when would I have what I am to Professor Bikeze? Or is it a mirage? It wasn't forthcoming, and I kept asking myself, is it that there is something I'm not doing well in this job? That I don't have people that I can actually tell my idea, and they help me to fulfill that idea. And I kept, striving, and it was like God saw my heart, knew my dreams, knew what I wanted, and all of a sudden, He started sending some students to me. One of the very first students He sent to me was one lady called Chimema. And the first time she came, we talked about it. I said, okay, dust up your masters, let's see. And then she wrote something and brought, John. And then I said, I think I'm still where I am. So I talked to him, I said, this thing you wrote, is it for publication or for what? He said, that's what I know now. I said, we're still where we are. And so, but we got to talking, and I said, okay, go and polish this. Can you do this? Can you do that? Don't mind the number of red pens you have in the paper. The red pens means that somebody read it, and therefore there's room for correction. And so that was how we started. And then one day, I got this PhD from South Africa, a qualitative PhD. After reading it and grading it, I called and said, look at the kind of PhD they are doing around the world now. Nobody is doing anything on chi-square, d-square, this one square, percentages. Then look at where they are going now. But that, though it's expensive, and the analysis is a little bit difficult, but do you think you can do this? She looked at me and said, Prof, let me try. So we went. I didn't have a soft copy of that material, it was a hard copy. So I photocopied it and gave it to her. I said, model this, let's see if we can get a PhD out of this. And it was a challenge. I didn't know she was going to take it up. I thought that maybe after 1 year she would come back and say, oh, people, let me go back to my chi-square and everything. But she took it up and today we are. When they started examining, I came to examine it. She said, also, what is happening in your department? Are you tired of chi-square and S-square and everything that is about the best PhD we have seen in this department? And let me now talk about publication. Before, Chima will write a paper and say, Prof, look at it, let's see, let's do this. Now, what I know that I will get an email from one publishing company or the other that somebody just submitted a paper and that your name is there. And so Chima has been a blessing to me because she just like opened the floodgates. And now, every year I get more than 20 publications. That I thought to readers that the only thing I did they'll just send me the final copy. Prof, look at this, is this a problem for it? Is this one? So it's even much more than I have bargained for. I'm on the board of some international journals, and over the years I have seen what we look for. When we hold meetings of editors, I now see what people look for in journals. What are they looking for? One of the very first things we are looking for in any journal is, what is this thing adding to knowledge? What new thing? No matter how small it is, just let there be something new that people have not said anywhere else. Our reality is what they want to know about. They have cleared their own reality. They now want to know our things that are happening in our place. And then, in the simplest language, you can explain it to them. That is what they want to hear. And what have you? That is what they want to know. Forget all those big things we were doing before. They have cleared all that. We need to calm down now and write about the rudiments, about that old woman in the village, about that old man, about that small boy, what small girl. Things that form our reality, they want to know it. And so on that note, I want to thank Chinwe and Chi. Chinwe is the arrowhead, and Chi has now joined. I want to thank them for making me look good, actually. Yeah, because it's all about making me look good. And that's what I tell my students, trying to look at them, making comments and making sure that they all move. And we pray that this dream of theirs, it's been 2 years running now, but we pray that this dream will come to fruition. And at the end of the day, it will be beneficial not just to social work department, but to social sciences and to the entire university as large. Thank you very much.
What I'm taking from all of this is that our colleagues in the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, Department of Social Work, have been very productive in terms of publications, and they're now turning back to say, these publications, this statute, what does it mean for us in terms of implementation? How do you think we'll engage with the focus of the discussion today in a very productive way?
Distinguished professors, my intervention is in the area of the presentation made by Dr. Chio. How do we engage beyond the academy, beyond publication? Yes, I just want to anchor my presentation on just one area, and that is my interaction with the Conversation Africa. It's a platform, it's a blog that you synthesize your research. Yes, we have done fantastic work, published it, but few people will read it because it's peer reviewed. Only your peers, just a few persons in your area. By the time you synthesize it into 800 words, compress it, use hyperlinks to connect keywords and to connect the articles. And it is published in a very easily digestible and readable format. You are addressing the entire Africa. I say this because I'm the representative of the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, and I've had opportunity to publish a number of times with them. And the publication is free, easy to read, free flowing, and by the time you are interacting with the editors, they ask you some questions behind the scenes, you give more additional insight into what you have in mind. So by the time they present it, you find out that you might even see that there's something new in your work which you yourself never saw have an issue. So I want to encourage our colleagues, once you have published a journal article, take it a step further, the conversational frame. I'm available in the faculty. I've conducted some workshops for the university. We're still planning others. So if you have any needs to raise your research to that level, I'm available for further discussion. Thank you very much.
I am of the Faculty of Education and Curriculum Studies in particular. And curriculum is education, and education is curriculum. You may be asking yourself, why did I say so? I said so because there is no education program that you can implement successfully without a curriculum. Though, as Africans and Nigerians in particular, when the white man came, we decided to drop everything about Africa and imbibe the white man's culture. And we forgot that even before the white man came and brought what they gave to us that we now call Western education, we had our own system of education. And that education that we had at that time, we ran it with curriculum, though it was not written anywhere. I may call it unwritten curriculum, because we knew what we wanted, we knew the methods that we wanted to use to get to where we wanted to get to. But immediately the white man came, we dropped all those things. And if you can have a flashback, or if you have read something about the Africans before the white man came, you will agree with me that then we didn't have much of what we now call today as insecurity. Some of these social vices that have dominated the entire African space, they were not there. The reason is clear. The African man curriculum for education at that time was centered on the three aspects of human being. The three aspects of a man: the head, the mind, and the hand, which we call the cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor domain. And that was why, in the African setting, we were interested in educating the child based on what he or she can produce. Said it to some people whenever I had the time to say it, that in Nigeria today, if you are listening to news and you don't hear that someone was killed there or there, it means it is not news from Nigeria. The reason is because most of us are idle. Even those who have gone through the type of education that we have today, they are idle because they are not equipped. Some of them were developed, that is, it was only their two domains or one domain that was developed. Maybe the cognitive only, maybe the mind only. This other one was not developed. When you look at these buildings, how beautiful they are. They were not developed, they were not constructed based on what is here in the head. You conceive it, you appreciate it with your mind, and then you begin to put them into reality with using your hand. Now, I'm happy because of this program for today. A lot of research works have been done in social work, even in my own area. In curriculum studies, I've done a lot too. But our problem is the implementation. And I've seen what my sisters have done in social work, and they are so much concerned about those people that are in the streets. But this information cannot get to them if we don't find a way of articulating them, trying to make them to form part of our curriculum in schools. I think the essence of coming here today is worthwhile. If by the end of the day, we'll be able to find a way of articulating this information, putting them into a curriculum that will enable us to train our children properly to have a better Nigeria. Thank you.
I want to talk generally on what Sister Chinwe, what has been bothering the research team. That most of the time we come to the university, we write, we publish, and it ends there. It is a problem to everybody because I believe that everything, 90% of what we do in the university is not, it doesn't benefit the people out there. And I think that we, here, we should find a way of engaging the town more. When I was doing my first degree, I often heard Professor Ume saying town, gown and town, that you cannot remove the gown from the town. That is the university from the society. And what you see these days is that people that somehow feel that they have arrived, they tend to remove themselves from the happenings in the villages. Because the policymakers we are talking about, they come from the villages. The curriculum planners and all that, they come from the villages. Because I think that if from the universities, that these are children, undergraduates, number one, they have their town union, they belong to their town unions. They will know their townspeople, and it will be a driving force, something that will make them, even when they graduate, to continue associating with the town. We see the work we are doing as something that pays us as at the end of the day. But if we try to know that even though we come here to receive our salaries, we also owe it as a duty. Now, if I remember that it gets to the people that they are meant for. I think that way. We go to the villages and we associate with ourselves with what they do in the villages, because it is not everything that they do in the villages. And all those things. If you show any youth some of those things, they will tell you that it is fetish. It is not everything are indigenous things. All of them are prophetish. The things we do in the village, all of them are prophetish. If we associate with them, that superior information you have, you can pass it to them. And by passing it to them, it may get to Onyegenyela in one way or the other. That's my own view of how we can engage the sound, so that what we do here will be more productive. Thank you.
I think time has come for African scholars to engage more on collaborations and this type of work. Individually we can do exploits, but collectively we can do more than that.
with this kind of hub, we could pull ideas together and come from multidisciplinary approach to tell the African story or to tackle a social problem. So whether you are in the sciences, the pure sciences, in the arts, in the humanities, in the social science, we can find a way to collaborate and bring our ideas, because the whole essence of research is to solve problems. So without problem solving, the whole essence of research is a waste of time. Very much, Madam, for this initiative. And I pray that this little beginning shall sprout into something that I'll do in the future. Thank you very much.
The last part of today's event, which is the exhibition of African traditional music communication tools. Our ongoing exhibition at the ethnography section, we'll be able to cater for that. So when we finish from here, you go and see the exhibition, and then that will be it.